I would say that I think, most people who are in the food, restaurant, hospitality business, once they're in it, they are really in it.
Yeah,
like it is a lifetime commitment in hospitality.
It is. It's for people to get out of it. They try. They try, and for different reasons. We obviously saw a lot of that during COVID, right? For a lot of reasons. I think you and I talked about before about Amazon and all these places, Uber Eats, Uber in general, and all these different ways. But, I think the people I gravitate to the most are the people that love it enough to figure out what else to do in hospitality. Yeah. And that's how we got to talking. So Jen Henderson, welcome to Behind Bars.
Great to have you. Thank you.
Tell us about how you got started in hospitality.
So my dad is a food broker. I feel like it's that story that says like once upon a time at band camp, right? When I was 2 years old. But that's really how it started for me was, instead of doing things that other kids were doing, I wanted to go to food shows with my dad. Awesome. I just loved the energy and the people and all of the different products. And so then I went to college and did nothing like that at all, even though I had worked in restaurants. I was going to be a teacher. And I'll tell you the short version of what is a bit of a long story, but I was going to college, St. Joe's, right, here on City Ave. And I was working part-time at Pier 1 because I needed beer and ramen. Sure. And so I needed to make some money to do that. And I realized very quickly, if you know City Line Avenue, it really splits, and there's a ton of kind of mainline moms that come shopping for wicker furniture. And I knew that if I helped watch their kids while they were shopping, they would spend more money. That's really what it was about. And so I ended up babysitting for a ton of them, these wonderful, wonderful parents in the area. And one of them was the vice president of a local franchise. And she had lost the floppy disk that their operations manual was on. So I'm dating myself a little bit with like floppy disk, right? And she said, "You're an English major. Can you retype this for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, more beer, more ramen. I can absolutely retype this for you." And so I did. And while I was doing it, I made notes in the margin for things I thought they could do better operationally.
Nice. Smart.
Smart. Big ego at 18. One of those two things. I'm not really sure. So I did all that. And she said at the end, "Come work for me." Nice. She said, "I need someone here. I need an assistant is what I need." And so I started with them as an assistant. And within a few months, I was running operations. And
which place was this?
This was called Horn and Hardart Coffee Company.
Okay, cool.
Horn and Hardart, really?
Horn and Hardart. So here's the crazy part about Horn and Hardart. My grandfather worked for the original Horn and Hardart with the automats.
Philadelphia.
Huge.
Yeah. Yes.
Huge. And the people that owned the franchise had bought the rights to license the name from the original automat owners.
So I always thought they just shut down. So they were still operating even at that time, huh?
It was really a new concept. So it was almost like a cozy. It was panini sandwiches and espresso drinks and that kind of stuff.
That was my first interview ever.
Really?
Outside of college. Well, actually, I was in college, yeah.
At Horn and Hardart?
No, Cozy.
Oh,
yeah,
fair.
in Manhattan.
Okay.
They offered me $28,000 to be a store manager in Manhattan in 1996 or 99. And I'm like, I can't live on that in Manhattan.
In Manhattan?
No.
You can't live in your car in Manhattan for that amount of money.
So talk more about Horn.
Per month?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
especially with our lifestyles.
Per shift, what happens? So I worked for them in operations. Okay. They ended up bringing another franchise under that umbrella. It was called Amazon Systems, not related to like the Amazon Prime Amazon.
Right.
It was smoothies and wraps. And so I worked for both of those franchise companies for a while, opening restaurants. It was small. So I really cut my teeth, right?
I'm sure at that time though that they were, one of the few like QSRs that were really starting up then because they weren't really that big back then.
Agreed. Agreed.
So that's interesting.
It was kind of this like fast casual phrase that that was kind of coming up saying we want a bit more than fast food, but I don't want to go to a casual dining restaurant. Right. And so that was really picking up steam. So it was great. Opened restaurants, helped with marketing, did franchise sales, like you name it, I did it. One day I looked up and I was like, oh, I think I'm in restaurant franchising now. Like, I think that's kind of what I do. And I was a 5-day-a-week SaladWorks consumer. Like, I ate their salad, same salad. I'm kind of a creature of habit.
The Bentley?
What? No, it was a create your own. Like I had to have my own. And so I applied for a job there and ended up starting with them as a regional manager. So I was supporting restaurants with like quality service, cleanliness, local store marketing efforts. I had Southern New Jersey and Miami as my territory. It's a lot of fun. And so I spent the next 15 years with SaladWorks through a lot of kind of ups and downs, which could totally be a whole podcast, by the way. We could talk about that for a long time. But I spent a long time with them, really doing everything you could think of for that franchise organization. So I did marketing, public relations, led operations, franchise sales, design and construction, research and development on the menu side. Went back, got my MBA at Temple. Absolutely best experience of my entire life.
The MBA there?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'll tell you a quick little story about that, but it was 16 months. Condensed version. So every 5 weeks you completed a class. So it was a webinar on a Tuesday.
Oh, that's cool.
And then you would go a week and a half later, you would spend a weekend in the city, living in a hotel, going to class from 8 to 5 every day for 3 days.
Oh, shit.
And then another week and a half and you did another webinar, and all the work got done in that period of time.
What was the MBA specifically?
It was an executive MBA. So business. And it was a cohort model, 27 of the greatest humans I have ever had the pleasure of sharing a table with.
That's awesome.
From all different industries. It was really such a cool way to collaborate on things that, you know, there were people there that were executives at television stations, and there were attorneys.
What a
and
networking
there were doctors.
opportunity.
Unreal.
Do they still have that model?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah. It was pretty cool. They are all still, I would say, I call them my family to this day. Like, we have a conference call once a month where we still keep in touch with each other. I mean, it's the greatest network I've ever been a part of.
That's so cool.
And so I did that, and then was like, okay, what's next? And so I've done some consulting for franchises. But currently I switched over to the tech side, which at first I was like, really?
Right.
Okay, I think maybe tech. Okay. But it came from a hospitality place. So there's a company called Workmark, based out of Conshohocken, started by a guy named John New. And I started there almost 2 years ago at this point, and I am their chief operating officer.
So before or after COVID started?
This is right after. So this was like right after.
Was this your, like, you know, that old saying that learn to code that they were saying about the was it the steel miners or the coal miners? It was like this whole Twitter thing about like, just go learn to code, you know, to all that. Like,
this was not my learn to code moment. I will tell you that I knew John New from just, both Philadelphia kind of business people we had met. And my SaladWorks home office was in the same building as his office. Okay. And he had a conferencing center. He was the original founder of The Hub, which was later bought by Convene.
Yes.
And so total small world, but my MBA classes were at Convene. And so it was really like, I call it 6 degrees of John New, because somehow he shows up everywhere. But so he started Workmark, which was this tech company, but I had always kind of collaborated with him from a restaurant perspective. So as he was building the technology and I was working for SaladWorks, I would literally just go down and hang out in his office. They had an amazing vibe, such good culture.
How many people?
There was probably 10 of them. And I called myself like an honorary member of their fraternity. Sure. And I went down and hung out. And then at some point he said, it was a startup, right? And he said, I think what we need is you. And I think we're ready. And so I joined them, and I'm COO. Very cool. And it's awesome, because one of the coolest projects that I work on is hospitality based from a tech perspective. So I've been able to take kind of all of this. I spent 20 years in restaurant hospitality. Now, how can I help build tech that helps the industry that I love so much? You know what?
It's interesting because with your background from what you just told me, like, you jumped in without really hitting independents, and independents lack systems, right? So you got to see systems from the jump street. And does John have hospitality background or no?
No, he's actually a military vet.
So what made him go into it?
So actually, hospitality isn't the only vertical that Workmerk works in with its technology. So there's really 4 verticals that we focus on. We do a lot of work with the Department of Defense. So we're building a custom application for the 177th Air Wing out of Atlantic City right now. We do work with Health and Human Services. So verification of tasks and checklists and regulations that kind of help with risk mitigation and lowering their insurance premiums. We do work on the security side, so helping with maintenance and kind of on the job, on the go things that happen every day, where if you have to get inside of your vehicle, let's say, drive back to the office, fill out paperwork. We ended up doing a study that showed that we increased productivity by officer by 75% on a daily basis, which was a huge savings for the organization.
Process automation type stuff and remote.
Yeah, it was really like their vehicle inspections and their incident reports. They were writing them down in the field and then going back to the office and typing them into the software.
Yeah.
And just that back and forth time, 1, information gets lost, right? And 2, it takes a while.
Sure.
And so now they do it all on their phone. And so hospitality is really our 4th vertical. We have partnered with the National Restaurant Association. So we are the tech arm for the National Restaurant Association. And we created a custom app called Serve Safe Ops. So the hospitality background is mine, kind of matched with John's insanely intelligent entrepreneurial spirit and his idea that technology can fix a lot of things if you do it right and keep it simple. And that's one of the things we talk about a lot, right? There's so much technology out there. Like you could get an app for everything.
Yeah, right.
But some of it is so overblown and so difficult to use and comes with so many features and functions that you use like 10% of it and the ROI just isn't there. So we've worked really hard to say like, how do we keep this simple? How do we say that like small things matter and that doing tasks every single day and someone checking in to say I did them is really what people need to get their job done.
Yeah. Now, when you give me an example of, I know you talked about some of the process type stuff you're doing. Is that what you're doing in the hospitality business? Like, are some of the components of this app, they like process automation? Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I'll tell you the 2 key components that we've started out with. The first is really tasks. So it's a checklist tool.
Okay.
And I tell the story a lot that like when I was running restaurants, I would walk up to the door and I had 100 things on my list that day. They were all of equal importance.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Food safety, customer service, sales building, employee engagement, you name it. And then the key would break in the front door, the toilet would overflow, 2 people would call out, the truck wouldn't show up, and I was like, yep, none of that's getting done today.
Sal was getting recalled.
Yeah, all the things, right? It was like there was always something on fire.
Lettuce, I'm sorry, lettuce.
Lettuce, yeah.
Romaine.
The great romaine call that came 2 days before Thanksgiving.
Which is an interesting story we should talk about down the road. But go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk more about that.
There was a terrible day, right? We were like, really? It's 5:00 on a Tuesday. Thanksgiving is in 48 hours. So we take all of the tasks that happen in a restaurant every single day and put them into an app. And then that for us isn't enough. The secondary part, which is really the foundation upon which our tech sits, is our nudging platform. It's a reminder. It says like, hey, do the opening checklist.
Okay, cool.
And so if you have, let's say you run a breakfast concept, right? And so your opening checklist starts at probably 5 a.m. every day. So all the people responsible for those tasks get a nudge on their phone that says, don't forget to do your opening checklist. And then there are other components of the app. There's kind of an issue tracker, and we can talk a little bit more about that. It's a training tool, and we can talk a little bit more about that. But the foundation is, how do I digitize standard operating procedures in a restaurant and then make sure they get done?
Accountability. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. One of the problems that we have right now, we have checklists and they're on the wall, right? And so my wish to my management, which, I understand why there's reasons not to do it, is we should have somebody fill out, just like a Build-A-Burger menu.
Yeah.
Fill that and sign it.
Yeah.
And then drop it in their drop with all their money, right, at the end of each shift. My GM's issue is, well, that's fine, except I won't see that for 3 days later, and I won't know if things got done or didn't get done. So what I like about this, and in all fairness, I did see a little bit of this app. Jenna was presenting at a PRLA event, and I did get to corner her, and she showed me a little bit of it. And what I liked about it is,
once again, he's more prepared than me.
Everybody has a phone, and so like the whole idea of Jessica, my GM, was like against like, oh, so what? Now I gotta, pull pieces of paper together and figure out what got done, what didn't. And who's not going to check every box, right? Like you could like set it up where they can fail that, and they're gonna do everything they think they do, and they're gonna come by boom, 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 and perhaps they'll do that anyway. But at least there's that step of accountability, and like I always thought this, the ability to sign your name to it.
I think people feel like a greater sense of responsibility when I have to put my signature on something.
Anytime any manager is setting up any SOP, that is the end game, right? Is the signature, right? And like you're saying, that doesn't get done a lot. Or if they don't do them all, they're afraid to even turn it in.
Right.
And where 90% of them when you got done, and fine, it's a teaching opportunity or whatever. You redirect somebody, but they just won't turn it in at all, and then it's a bigger issue. So that's a great tool.
Yeah. No. And then the second part of what would give me like that level of is if I have to update that list. Now I got to go either send to the print shop, because I love to build like tablets for things like my build a burger checklist or whatever. But like I'd have to go do that again, or print them out and cut them with a paper.
Laminate it. You gotta like Sharpie it out.
Exactly. And then make it so that they can drop it, and then tell them there's a new one, and make sure you look at the our menus. I put a different background across them just so everybody knows they're new.
The new ones.
Yeah, every time we roll them out, so people know that there's a price. Maybe there's a price change, or they just know, oh, the menu's different. What's changed? It becomes like hide and seek or where's Waldo kind of
topic
thing.
of conversation.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like those hidden eggs.
Yeah. So no, that's great. And that's something that I got pretty excited when we talked about. You coming on to the podcast. I think operations is something that is one of the top 2 or 3 things that are reasons why bars either fail or just spending too much money.
Yep.
Or just not getting things done at the level they need to play in an environment where they need to be clean. They need to be, have cold beer, right? Like have beer that tastes good out of drafts, right? Yeah. That's something I'm going to put in the checklist that we develop, right? Because I have somebody that does maintenance, and they do the draft cleaning because we have a system for all that. And it gets done. It does get signed off because the LCB needs to see that too, and all that. But in this case, which by the way, I like the fact that now we could say, oh yeah, we have to print that out for you, instead of it being right there. You know what I mean?
Bro, if I showed you my sign off for I think I have every one since 1975.
You have them all saved.
Yeah, they're all like on cardboard, and they're all right up against each other.
Nice.
It is the grossest thing you've ever seen in the world.
No, but I think these are things that it's time to step into the 21st century, 21.5, right?
Sure.
But and really fix a lot of these things. And there's no more excuse of like, oh, well, I'm not good at technology, or oh, I'm not good at this. Well, you pick up a phone and call people.
Correct.
Well,
you can click a couple buttons. You know what I mean?
I have one pushback for you.
Okay, tell me.
From thinking about this in an operational standpoint, and I'm sure you probably have an answer to this.
I have an answer for everything.
I'm sure.
Let me just tell you that about me.
I hate when employees are on the phone all the time.
Yep.
So do you use an iPad, or what do you do?
So I'm going to say a couple things. Okay. One, I'm going to say we might be old, right?
Yeah, I'm feeling it.
Older. And I think because I hate it too. Like it makes me cringe.
Well, especially front of the house.
Makes me cringe when I go into some place and people are like on their phone doing stuff. It makes me crazy. I think that it's become, people just get used to it at this point. And I'm not saying they should like watch social media when they're supposed to be helping a table, but I think that customers and restaurant owners are used to just seeing people on their phone nowadays. So I'll say that as a first.
Fair enough, yeah.
However, we have had some restaurants say like, I don't want my people on their phone. I just don't. And so we put what is like a hot device.
Sure.
Right? Whether it's maybe we have them one in the back of the house, one in the front of the house.
iPad stands, whatever.
And then they use those and they
Next
do the
to the
checklist
POS.
that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of POSs now are iPad based anyway.
Yeah.
That allow you to install the software, so therefore you could have this alongside that.
Right, and they could just do it
nice,
at the front on the second POS or whatever.
Which is probably even better.
Yeah.
Because if you have, if you're getting reminders as you're trying to log into your
Yeah, exactly. Right,
You know what I
right
mean?
in your face. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That's a good point. I think that I think a lot of it should, ideally you're opening, you're closing. You should be doing things off, outside of your phone. But there are going to be times. One of the features that we talked about that I was like, hey, it'd be great if you could do this. She's like, yeah, we do that. It's the ability for issues to be shared. I get text messages
absolutely.
all throughout the night of a broken piece of trim, a bathroom that's literally off all 4 of its bolts. Don't ask.
And you
But
wonder, like, how does
just,
that even happen?
Yeah.
Like, what went down?
I'm so immune to it now at this
Yeah.
point, but it does drive you nuts. But I like the feature. Maybe you can just explain how it's different than like just even using your phone. And like if you use your phone and have to edit a picture, then you have to like save twice.
Yeah.
And then you have to like go into a text message, pull it up, and then send it, and then say like, and then here's what you get.
Yeah.
Toilet broke, men's room, first floor, ? So I'm not sure like.
happened?
like somebody sat on it and smashed the thing?
Yeah,
or
or somebody doing like headstands inside the toilet. But I don't know how damaged it is. How, if it's important, if it's broken, whatever. But maybe you could tell a little bit about that feature, because that was another feature I really liked.
Yeah, and I think even worse sometimes than just getting a random text message that has probably 40% of the information that you need to solve it is not hearing about it at all.
Yeah, true.
Right? Until like, leak in sink, leak in sink, leak in sink. Nobody says a word, floods kitchen floor.
Sure.
Right? That's the other side of it that's terrible. And so there's a really simple issue tracker in the app that says I take a picture of it. I can annotate that picture, right? Like I'm circling where the problem is. I can mark it as urgent or normal so that somebody knows. And then I can categorize it. And we set up those categories specific to every restaurant that we work with. So maybe it's food safety, maintenance, cleanliness, employee issue.
Yeah.
And that way you can go into and it happens in real time. So you can go into the management dashboard. You can prioritize those issues. You can call for service. You can attach the picture to a nudge that you then send to somebody that says like, hey, can you go take care of like this overflowing trash can somewhere? And then you can mark them as complete. And then the cool thing is you can look at the end of the 30-day or 60-day period and say, hey,
Trends.
75% of my issues were about food safety.
Yeah.
That should probably be a quick training next month.
Or Jena did, 65% of the problem solving, or more or less, right? 'Cause
Correct.
you can see that.
Correct.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I see a lot of value in that area. I mean, and the other thing that we do, I may put out a video or I may put out a picture of something, and then today we use like Facebook Messenger. We did it because it was like skunks work and it just worked, and now it like still just works. And you can click like a little info icon and go through all the pictures and scroll down and find stuff between like the memes and emojis and all the other fun stuff, because we try to be still have some culture in the chat as whatever. But in this case, I like the idea that I can go to a dashboard and then look through the issues. Yeah. And now, so my brain keeps going like, okay, what are my categories? And then what are my top categories?
Sure.
I'll see that.
Do you have a, not to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but do you have a manager shift report that they can do on there too as well?
Yeah, it can be in a checklist,
Okay.
or it can be in, like we have, for example, we have like a calculator, right, that you can use for like a beverage profitability calculator. Okay. So we could set that up as like a manager report. They click on a link, they fill it in right there, and then they hit send, and it goes right to the manager.
So I have 3 locations, and I'm really excited about this. Is we have this problem, the same kind of information flow issue we have, which is we post everything into a chat so that everybody sees it.
Right.
And so you have 2 problems. You have sometimes I post something and then, you could see who looked at it. But then there's like questions, this, that, and the other thing. And also that's like 5
it's like 10
scrolls up
down.
or whatever. Yeah. So when people get flagged, one of my locations has 3 bars and 3 levels. The other one are individual, but they're all in the same town. So what do you do when you get flagged at the bar? You go to the next one.
Yep.
And my favorite thing is when people are like, F this place, I'm going to John Morton's. I'm like, they have no idea I own both.
That's mine
like,
too.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, or in this case, I'm like, no,
Right.
you're not going to go. We're going to make a phone call. Yeah. But it'd be really cool to have a rolling, just somewhere where a bartender can go, a section. I know we looked at like news and library within the confines of the Safe Serve Ops app, where I can literally set up this flag list. And then when you click on the person's name and maybe a little picture, you could see which bars to flag from.
Right.
Because sometimes we globally flag people.
So for our listeners, flag is a regional term for
Oh, is
band.
it?
Yeah.
Is that like Scrapple?
Uh-huh.
Because I went to Florida one time and I couldn't
Really?
get Scrapple. I'm like, what?
Band, yeah.
Oh, band. So flag's a regional term.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I learned something new today.
100%.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, the library works.
Blow
perfectly
your
Yes,
with
mind.
that,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Blow your mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Scrapple.
Scrapple. Yeah. The library is perfect because what it really is just pocket information, right? And so I've had some restaurants say, and you set the library up by categories too. So I'm going to put all of my recipe cards in here so that my frontline staff can just click on library, go to the recipe card category, and all of my recipes are right there.
that plating guide that we did.
Yeah, that'd be great for that.
That'd be great for that. Yeah.
That stuff can go right in. And I like the category part because otherwise I feel like you're 10 scrolls sifting
Yeah,
through a
sure,
bunch
sure,
of
sure.
information, right? It needs to be so I can get it quick.
And it's searchable too, if I recall, like the
Yep.
library, right? Yeah. So if I know like John Smith is flagged, I might just be able to pop it up and type SM. Up, yep, it's
You
flagged.
absolutely can. So we
Yeah.
could have like a flagged or banned, right? If we're
Right.
not in Pennsylvania. We could have a flagged category in library, have all the pictures and the list in there. You search for his or her name at the top and it just comes up.
You know what? That's probably why people look at me like I'm crazy sometimes when I tell them they're flagged.
Yeah.
Because they're not from around
Because they don't,
here?
because we get a lot of airport, like people from
Yeah.
outside the area. Huh. Google Irish pub when you're
I
at
knew that blew
Philly
your
International.
mind.
I own
I
that.
saw
I
your
own
eyes
that.
rolling. You're like,
You could be standing next to that. What's that place called? Jack Cassidy's? What's that place inside the airport? Dugan's or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
You could be next to it and type in Irish pub and Marty's comes up.
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
That is
damn right. You're damn right. I've quartered that. I've geolocated the hell out of that.
Yeah.
But no, that's great. And I think I told Jena that I'm going to be, if I subscribe to her product, she's going to be getting the feature requests rolling in. But it'd be great to like
I'm prepared.
to do like there's this like information sharing platform called Discord. It's very technical. It came from I think gamers and stuff or use it a lot, and it's very like it reminds me of like the old like combination of IRC chatting and posting of content.
Yep.
And a lot of it's all driven based on like tags. Like so you have a Discord like forum that's for I don't know gaming this game whatever it might be called.
Yeah.
And then people
No
will chat
fucking
in
clue
there
what
or
he's talking
whatever.
about.
Anyway, yeah. I mean.
I'm like half following, but yeah, it's okay.
It's
We're
good. Like
Yeah.
I had to look at it how to hack these cameras to go longer than 30 minutes. I haven't figured it out yet, but either way, I bring it up because it'd be cool if then you can have it like so you have these organizational workflow. I know for a fact, you might be able to build some, like a Delco flag list. We've been talking about it forever, but there's no good way to do it. The only way to do it today is by Facebook groups.
Yep.
Like we have a bar owners private group in this area. You know what I mean? It'd be really cool to be able to regionally have some sort of something like that where a bunch of people get together there in your platform. But anyway,
do you do anything when it comes to carding?
We don't. So the application does not take PII,
Sure.
right? Like I do not want people's personal
Makes sense.
identifiable. And I say that because it's meant for restaurant workers is
Right.
really what it's meant for. I
Sure.
mean, the dashboard is for managers, but and so we didn't want to get into I-9s and driver's licenses and IDs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Again, I think, and it's a credit to,
A lot of liability
to
with
John
that.
New.
Yeah.
It's also like, let's let the app be really good at what it's good at instead of
I never
trying to
thought
make it be
about
all
that.
things.
Because I've worked at a lot of places where, we used software for that, gathering information. And they had flag lists, ban lists on those as well, too, that you can accumulate. But I never thought about the liability of that personal information having that. It makes sense.
yeah, the other feature that we looked at, I guess it kind of falls in the library, is also I do videos all the time.
Yeah.
And, they get lost.
You mean for your employees?
Yeah, just like here's how you do this. Here's how you set the soundboard up to get the Eagles game on, and here's what TV you literally have to do like 3 or 4 things. But I'm only in the line of fire of like 5 things that happened in my business.
Yep.
And that's 5 things too many. Like, because if one of these 5 things go wrong or haywire, like I should be able to solve it via FaceTime. Sometimes it's easier for me to grab my laptop, no matter where I'm at,
Yep.
and just fix it.
Yep.
And so there's a variety of those, and it's like I can make those videos. I actually would do it previously. I put them on a YouTube channel, make them private, and only invite people using their YouTube email. But that's a administrative nightmare. That's fine for me and my management team.
Yeah, but it's different for all the staff.
Yeah, exactly.
And everybody has passwords eventually. And yeah, I mean, I think there's really something to be said for training, period.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Hard stop, right? But I think that's both on like from an onboarding perspective and from a here's how you clean the oven perspective. Sure. And then I think it's also stuff like readiness, right? When who's ever been to a place where you're like, yeah, press the third button, but you've got to give it a little push because it gets stuck sometimes, right? And
so we're not going to fix it because it costs too much money.
Correct.
You just have to know to push it harder.
You just have to know how to do this. You have to like give it a little kick. And so I think having those things in the app for people have been really helpful. So the training section, actually the ServeSafe Ops app, thankful because of our partnership with the National Restaurant Association, comes preloaded with 80 restaurant training videos. So I talk a lot about like independent restaurants just don't have access to the same amount of stuff that chain and franchise restaurants do.
Well, and that's just because of ownership's educational or lack thereof knowing systems, to be honest with you.
Well, too, and I think, look, videos are expensive to create. Yeah. If you're going to like create a library of videos, it can get a little costly. And then where do you house them and how do you update them? And so every app comes preloaded with 80 of those from the National Restaurant Association.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Things like how to cut an onion, how to calibrate a thermometer, how to put a truck delivery away to avoid cross-contamination. But then, to your point, all of your own training videos are in there, and they don't need to be professional training videos that somebody comes and shoots. It can be you on your phone for, what is the length of time people pay attention now? Like 8 seconds?
Something like that. What? YouTube Shorts, like 12 seconds.
Yeah, it's crazy. Right. Sorry. Were you talking? So you can record those really quick and upload them. And then it's your own library of kind of SOPs that are specific to your restaurant, in addition to like the restaurant industry stuff that comes preloaded in there.
That is cool.
Yeah. I think, again, I won't, to me, the more important part of that's great. Right. And people can say, oh yeah, well, they think they could do it other ways. But the fact that there's a place to house that, that you can then, choose who of your employees or all your employees see that, and it's right there in their pocket at all times.
Yeah, that's the cool part.
That's the cool thing. So I see like, okay, here's a great example: St. Patrick's Day, right? Despite what we promote and how we get there, we are still laminating day of food menus and like that morning or the night before or whatever. Yep. And it's like I could be here, hold my phone. Here's what we're doing, guys. Here's this. It's in the specials button under blah, blah, blah. Have a great St. Patrick's Day. We're all going to party on Sunday, industry party kind of thing, whatever. Boom. The next day, they come in their shift or whatever, or maybe, or that night, whatever, nudge, check this video out, message from the boss, whatever, a message from, happy St. Patty's Day, everybody, check this out, I think if you take that approach to it and keep it simple, you do it often, like almost like drip marketing, talk about something a little bit as it builds. I feel that that's how you can get more acceptance of the platform, because that's always the reason why Facebook works for us, even though it's like organized. Really, it's a free for all, really. But it's people police themselves, because I will frequently go on and say, "Yo, guys, come on, this is for staff announcements." Let's, you want to have culture, right? Especially in this business, but at the same time, you want to make sure that when we're talking seriously about issues and things that we need to do, we're serious about those. So I think that like platform and culture adoption is something that I know I would need to spend more time up front doing that than, say, I don't know, going through checklists.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that stuff is equally as important, right?
Yeah.
I think especially, and again, we could have a whole nother conversation about the employment pandemic and how to get people in. Sure. But there's something to be said for how do we keep them and engage them and make this a cool place to work. Like work is hard, right? I don't care what you're doing. And most people spend more time with the people they work with than they do at home or with their significant other or their family. So let's at least make it a good time. Let's at least give them messaging that they want. And that's the cool thing about the nudges. Like in addition to the checklist reminder, I can send out something in the morning that, to your point, says, hey, happy St. Patty's Day. Don't forget, here's the menu. They click on it right there. Right. And then they actually acknowledge that they got it. So that you know that if you have 25 people in a restaurant, 24 people said yes. Now you can call up that one guy and be like, what happened? Did he miss my message, or are you just ignoring me today?
Yeah. No, that's true. That's good. So I guess, you've come full circle, and I myself I've worked in the cyber world. I've always worked in hospitality, but worked in the cyber world, and I worked for a company protecting that company. Mm-hmm. I worked for a product company creating products that will protect the company, and then I worked for one of the large Big Four consulting companies. I started my own, and then we became them. Mm-hmm. My favorite part of it all was that end, because I was able to consult. I was able to go in and say, okay, here's the issues you're having. Here's how we'll figure out how to do it. And in almost every engagement, there's a technological uplift that would have to happen, whether it was data integration or getting two companies to talk together, or building a process, and then having these accountability checks along the way. Do you see when you engage with a lot of these restaurants and bars, is there a fair amount of consulting that you do that goes along with that? What's that like from when you initially engage with them? And let's say let's say a big box player, like a I don't know, pick your favorite on the boulevard chain food outfit, without saying Ruby Tuesdays, Applebee's, or Bertucci's, or any of those, like something like that. Like what would that engagement be like?
Yeah, and I think, there is an obvious level of kind of white glove engagement in what we do, right? We are not the application that you pay for online and download automatically. Sure. In part, especially in hospitality, because no two restaurants are the same. Like, I don't care if they're all fast casual. I don't care if they're all casual dining. Even if they're the same concept, no two restaurants are the same. So we have an operations and deployment team that is pretty stellar.
Awesome.
And so they will set all of that up in the beginning. And part of it is figuring out what pains that restaurateur the most, right? Like, what is it that keeps you up at night? What is it that you struggle with? Because I'm a firm believer in, there's no need to boil the ocean. Mm-hmm. Let's take out a few of the things that we can digitize and make more efficient, and then let's move on to more things after that. So yes is the answer. I think finding out, especially with the larger companies that we work with, finding out what their bottom line ROI is really important for us, because ROI in an individual restaurant is a lot about boots on the ground operations, right? It's like, how do I make it cleaner, safer, funner, more money, those things. From an enterprise perspective, it's about, how do I increase employee tenure, and what does that save me from a training perspective? How do I make more efficient the work that I do from a food safety culture perspective, to ensure that we're known for that in the industry? So those conversations happen at a higher level, and there's a lot of consulting back and forth with it. So those rollouts typically take a little bit longer.
Sure.
And then we go to the individual restaurants and start doing the boots on the ground stuff.
What do you see as with visiting all these places? What do you see as the top issues you see in independents that they struggle with?
A lot of it's about organization, to be 100% honest with you. I think any restaurant, and even if it's a single restaurant that's part of a chain, there's 8,000 things that go on every day, right? It's why I've loved this project so much. It's such a passion project for me, because I know what it's like to stand behind the line and have 100 things to do that day and no time to do any of them. And so that's what I find plagues restaurants the most, that they simply can't get done all the things that they have to get done in a daily basis.
Joe and I talk about that all the time. Just punch lists and never get to. It's just the details as being operators that you look at, like, God, I want to do this, but damn it, I got to do this. You know what I mean?
Right. And it comes down to everything, right? You're rolling out a new LTO. How do I get my staff to taste it and sell it and love it, and then the customers taste it and love it, and sales go up? And
what is LTO?
Limited time offer. Sorry, that's flag.
No, I just wanted to make
box
sure
terms.
Our listeners know.
It's a total big box term. But all of that stuff is important, but you can't get it. I mean, a restaurateur, a restaurant manager, I don't care if you own 1 or 10, you simply cannot do everything on your own all the time, every day. So a lot of what we do is say, how can I give you arms and legs, right? How can I make the things that you want to happen, even if you're not standing right there?
Sure. So another question for you. Independents, do you have a tough time, or do they have a tough time keeping up with the system once it's implemented? What what percentage of places do you see like drop off after a couple months where you got to nudge them and be like, look, you guys really aren't engaging in this system a lot. Does that happen?
Yeah, I think there's absolutely ebbs and flows to it,
Yeah.
right? I think adoption in the very beginning is key because once people start to form that habit,
Sure,
Yeah.
the buy-in.
then they will do it, right? Whether it's the employees or the managers. If they're used to coming in at 10 a.m. every day and setting up the salad station and they have it on their phone, after 30 or 45 days, they don't know anything
Yeah.
different. That's what they do all the time.
Right.
So the early adoption is the most important part in the whole
100%.
thing.
Yeah.
But again, I will give a big shout out to my operations team. Part of their charge is that we send nudges to our
Oh, cool.
clients and our customers that say like,
That's smart.
hey, do you have any feedback this month? Or are there features and functionality that you found that you wish the app had, right? And
Right.
maybe they end up on our tech roadmap. And so we're sending reminders on our side that help with that adoption
Sure.
part.
Another thing I think a lot of independents struggle with is disciplinary actions. You know what I mean? It's something that's overlooked, or like I've mentioned this on this podcast a lot, and I'm a strong believer in. I've worked in like big operations. Like I was the only bar manager at Margaritaville, Atlantic City, and we did $15 million the first year, and 65% of it was alcohol. It was around 150 bar staff that I had, and I found it way easier to manage 150 than I do 10, because and we've talked about this before, because the culture is different. You do what you do, and there's a consequence to every action, that type of thing, and everybody knows that, and it's part of a culture. But in independence it's not the same. Well, that's Herbie always shows up late, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Do you incorporate, or do you have requests for disciplinary actions and stuff like that, as far as like punctuality, whatever, money handling, that type of thing?
We haven't started with disciplinary actions. I will tell you that there's a kind of clock in, clock out feature
Okay.
that's
Oh, cool.
in our roadmap. So it'll really be a geolocator. So when you walk into the restaurant based on latitude and longitude with the app, it'll check you in.
Oh, cool.
And then check you out when you leave. And so we've looked at stuff like that. We haven't gotten into the disciplinary side of things, but what we found is that just the compliance alone, right?
Yeah.
That when people start to see that, okay, 75% of our opening checklists were done.
They're
The
happy.
25% that weren't
Yeah.
done may
Right,
have been
right,
done
right.
by one or two people. And then it really arms that manager or restaurateur with the knowledge to go do the disciplinary stuff on their
Yeah, that
side.
makes sense.
Yeah, I like the idea of the point system, though, right? We talked about
Yeah.
that. I know, like a lot of union-based hospitality companies, like some of the casinos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll get points and stuff for doing things wrong.
And-
Like
and
you
the
call
art-
out, you get 2 points. It's like you're not fired. Nobody's like pissed. Like the
Right.
manager has to cover it and whatever, but you're gonna get points.
Yeah.
And the argument always when they start that up at a new union shop is, whether you start with negative points or positive points. it's always that argument.
Some negotiation.
Yeah. So weird.
No, that's real interesting. So, what you're willing to talk about with regards to this, I think there's enough there that it caught my interest in two of the features. And now we've already talked about a few others that I feel, because my technological mind can say, well, with the different modules or whatever you want to call them, I can make that work, right? Like the
Yep.
like the flag list, right? Whatever.
Yep.
Trademark, TM.
Flag list.
What things do you have coming down the pike that's exciting and interesting that you're willing to talk about at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you, part of my role as COO is to help oversee tech, which has been fun because for me, and I've done some app management before, but there's 1,000 things that I think of every day, right?
Yeah.
Which is why I think my background is so helpful, because like I wake up in the middle of the night, which is really a personal problem, thinking about things that I may want to add to the app. One of my favorite features that we added was a link inside of a checklist that takes them to a micro learning. So like if they don't know how to deep clean the oven, so the app has already said, hey, you have to clean it at 10 a.m. You have to clean it on the checklist. And then if you don't know how to do it, click on
That's
that.
brilliant.
Yeah,
So that
fryers.
was like, and it's simple stuff, right? But I think it's when you've stood on the line, that kind of stuff is really important.
Well, you know what? Jenna, the important part about that is, and most employees don't do, like, the biggest thing, especially in kitchens, is you need to open your mouth if you don't know how to do something. Right. And the brilliant part about the app is, from what I'm gathering from it, is that they can do that anonymously.
Yep. And
not feel like, damn, I don't know shit.
I don't know this. I didn't pay attention,
Yeah.
or
Right,
you know
right,
what I mean?
right.
Because it may have been something that you were trained, but
I
you got
wasn't
trained on
trained.
75 things,
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
But back to your original question. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
there
sure.
is a pretty robust roadmap for all the things that we want to add. One of the cool things about the app is that we are open API,
Oh, good. That was
which
gonna be
means
another question.
that there is the potential for some back end connections. So, as an example, we're talking about adding a module right now for a vaccine tracker. So, if I'm vaccinated, a lot of places in the city now
Required.
you have to show it, right? And those cards like don't fit in my wallet. And so we're talking about adding something that doesn't have personal information, but it links you to a third party where you have an actual picture of your vaccination status.
That's cool.
And so that kind of stuff is coming. We're doing a bit of responding to the marketplace right now because, like I said, the original basis for this was to really help the industry now.
Sure.
It's, you know, it's where we celebrate anniversaries. It's where we have birthday parties. It's where people get engaged. It's where you find friends and go on dates. It is the lifeblood of this country. Like, I cannot say enough about it. And so any way that we can help right now with what's going on right now, we're looking forward to. But we've talked about things. One of the next features that we're working on is notes inside of the checklist for things like, let's say that one of my checklist items was to check the temperature of the food in the Bain Marie. I want to record that in a temp log in the app.
Gotcha.
So that's one of the things
cool.
that's coming up next. Clock in, clock out, like that kind of stuff. And then I think we'll start to talk about back-end API connections. Do we work with a payroll processor? Do we get into some of that stuff? I want to be careful that I don't get into like tech bloat. Where I have everything in here and then nothing gets used. But I have talked to a couple of operators who have said, I have 4 different apps that do what this one app does. And so in addition to kind of the efficiency, I can probably save money by consolidating those into one place. So I think there's a value in that too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's a fine line.
So that's a good point because I want to bring this up because I feel like when I go to bar and nightclub or any of these conventions about hospitality, or I should take a step back. When I used to go to cybersecurity conventions, which I've gone to them all, DEF CON, Black Hat, RSA, all those, we would pretend we walk down the aisle and sort of take bets on what companies wouldn't be here the next year.
Yep.
And we made like a list. And so I feel like I would go to the bar and nightclub.
How right were you? Have you ever tracked?
Yeah.
I just like to know.
I had my fair share of winning because you could just smell bullshit. When I meet the founder and I ask him 3 questions about his technology and he doesn't give me, 2 of the right answers, it's like, okay, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because I implement these things for a living.
Right.
And in the same case in bar and nightclub or in the hospitality industry, I feel like you go around and you're looking, you're like, that would be great if it was a part of bartender. Because I'm not even going to put 2 apps on my phone to do that.
Right.
And I don't have an example, but you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
And that's a good one. Like, I think, apps that I do use, we do use Bartender for inventory optimization. And it's not even for it is nice and convenient. It's definitely not 15 minutes. Taffer's full of shit. Yeah. But, and I don't care how small your bar is. But it's so they don't have to write it down and put it into a computer after. So we can order on that, and then you adjust your bars and all that. So that has its value. Like, and for the price and everything, it's not cheap, but it saves my people time, which is what their number one ROI is. And secondly, we have it all documented. I can go back and look at it all. Like I can look at how many bottles of Jameson we keep on hand last year versus this year and how's that changed? Those sort of things. Look at it in sales reports as well, but like also knowing the second half of that, right?
Yeah, it's different to have it kind of all in one place.
Yeah, so that in my other area that I believe that we're going to see consolidation in this sort of hospitality app space. Scheduling is another big area. I think that's like almost a must. You talked about geo, IP, like or geolocation of where you're at and stuff like that.
Have you ever worked with any of those, like Schedulefly or Hot Schedules?
I've evaluated them. Yeah, and
they're a bitch, man.
They are, and
a bitch in what, like they're hard to use or they're expensive?
They're hard to use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very hard to use. Like it's definitely a lift for management to get to learn it.
Yeah, but I think that the value. So my background in cyber was building use cases, taking off the shelf decision support management platforms. They were called security information event management, but the idea was data flows into this thing, and you ask questions of the data by building use cases. A lot of it's just logical type stuff. So I want to know when my person, when they checked in, when they actually logged in from my source IP address of my Wi-Fi, or you can use geolocation as well. So I'll know if they're in the vicinity, that kind of thing. I want to know, from a checklist perspective, you have that kind of already handled. I can go back and see how many people actually complete their checklist. I'd be really curious to know how fast if they hit, if they complete their checklist
like
in 9 seconds or whatever. But no, I think I think there's so many use cases that are out there right now that we need process optimization or automation for, and like we were talking about scheduling. I feel that it'd be nice to know that somebody just got onboarded in the scheduling app. I can rate their experience, and then automatically they'll be allowed to pick up certain shifts on certain nights.
Yeah.
Now, in this crazy staffing world we're in, it's if you're available, you got the gig.
You
but
have it, right.
But it'd be nice. Yeah, right. But it'd be really nice. It'd be really nice to be able to do that. And I know these features are built in, a lot of them, but like the ability to require management approval to pick up a shift.
Yep.
I think those things are awesome.
Yeah, and scheduling is something we've absolutely talked about. I will be totally transparent and say that it scares me a little bit for all of those different things that you can do with it, right? When it comes to and that's probably why they're so complicated, swapping shifts and manager approval and who's available at what time.
It's more setting up the schedule itself.
Yeah.
Just setting up the platform for whatever schedule is going to work for your operation. That it's a bitch. So it's the initial lift that's tough, and then it's the initial training of new managers how to handle it. That can be, it's user friendly for staff.
Yeah.
But when it comes to management, it's a little rough.
So check this out. So Juke, which was our rep at Wrigley, it was Coors Light actually. He's like,
how'd you get a hold of him first?
Yeah, he stopped by. He stopped by 11 a.m. when a bar was going to be there. Now Juke is the man. He was a legendary guy. He sold pet food before he got into the hospitality business. Yeah, great guy. He worked for Wrigley, one of our distributors. But anyway, I got suckered into essentially like we had this beer. We had Shamrock and Roll or something like that. We had some bus thing we did, and we sold out of it. And the next day he's like, Joe, I can get you more of it. I'm like, all right, give me more of it. And like the day before St. Patty's Day, he's like, I can get you 10 kegs for like $40 a piece or something like that, or like $38 a piece. You just got to, pay the deposits or whatever, pay the deposits and you give the kegs back.
Did you buy them?
Yeah. We had.
How long did it?
It was like middle of the summer.
Was it like purple beer by then?
Yeah. Listen, no matter, we clean the lines every week. The water would come out green. Even after acid and everything else, like we need to basically
every time
there's nothing you can do about it. It's a terrible idea. I didn't know at the time. You know what I mean?
It sounds good.
Yeah,
I mean, it's St. Patty's Day. I need green beer.
Yeah. Anyway, what the hell were we talking about? But labor force.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the labor shortage and the answers to it? Because it's a fucking nightmare.
So it's insane. I can't. I was just saying this a couple of days ago, and it's not just hospitality, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
no doubt.
You can't make a deposit at a bank because they're closing branches and consolidating them to find workers. And I said out loud the other day, does anybody know where all the people went? I was like, I don't.
Because I want to go.
I was like, it's insane. I mean, I understood that there was a period of unemployment, right? Yeah. And so that took some people away. I understood that there was a period where online ordering, and not just in hospitality, but everywhere, whether it be Amazon or third-party delivery like DoorDash, that was really increasing. And so too was their demand for labor. And so a lot of people shifted over there.
Yep. Learn the code.
Yeah, right? I don't understand why it hasn't come back faster than it has. I heard a statistic the other day that there are 1.6 million open hospitality jobs in the United States right now.
The jobs gap is at 10.5 million.
Yeah. I mean, it's nuts. I mean, I do think that there was a shift from hospitality because of some of the bad press that restaurants got. Whether it was like super spreaders or whatever it is. I think that plays into it.
I think you also have people that worked in the industry. Let's say you were out of college and you did this. A classic example, a good friend of mine worked at a bank. She worked there all week. She bartended one day a week. She made more money bartending one day a week than she did at the bank all week. And it's like, okay, that's fine. So what do? You go to bartending, you live the life, you have fun. Now you're 35, bartending 11 years.
You almost age out.
And you're thinking like, and I feel like COVID gave people a little bit of time to think about.
That's exactly right, Joe.
What else is next?
What I was just going to say.
Yeah, like what else is next? What have I really saved?
Well, not only that, Joe. I was talking to a guy on the boardwalk this summer. I have two stories for the shore down there. Guy on the boardwalk has an ice cream shop. He had to close one of them. He had two of them. I'm sorry. He had to close one of them because he couldn't get enough people, and he was paying $25 an hour to scoop ice cream. Told me, and I think he's dead on about this, is that people got on unemployment, right? Or they were at home because things were shut down. They realized, they're like, you know what? I don't need it. I don't need that life anymore. And it's exactly going back to what you're saying, where people are reevaluating their lives, and not just about like what this job is doing for me or where I'm going to be at in 5 years. It's just like the immediate, like, fuck this. I'm not going in and doing that. Like I could sit here and stream Netflix and, maybe pick up a couple Uber shifts a week and I'm good.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it had to do with that. And the other thing down the shore was Stone Harbor. They were literally paying people $20 an hour on the books, 10 off to fry French fries.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I also think there was a ton of shift to remote work. Yeah. Obviously out of necessity during the height of the pandemic. And now I think it's become really a cost of entry for people to work places that you can either work remote or it's a hybrid work model. And so I think people also looked at it and said, okay, I was home, whether it be on unemployment or because of a shutdown. And I liked the idea that I could work and throw in a load of laundry or pick up my kids if I needed to. Yeah. And now I think that is much more accessible than it ever was before. That there's a much greater number of work from home opportunities. And so I think we have death by a thousand cuts here from a labor shortage perspective.
I think though your point of people self-reflecting and it comes from every angle, right? Let's say that you were making more money than you did on unemployment, but you don't have to work at all. So now you're like, holy shit, there's better out there from an income perspective.
Yeah.
How can I do something to make the same money, which in this case may not be hospitality, right?
Yep.
May or may not, depending on how many days they're working, all that. And do something that I love that doesn't feel grindy and rat racy, right? You have people who made more money, but then didn't love what they did, and now they're able to make less, and either whether it's painting or doing something, a labor of love, that they now might take a shot at doing for less money.
Yes.
Right? And I mean, I could speak to it. I was a partner at a cybersecurity firm, and I took the early, you're going to retire, please, would you, Joe?
Yep.
Kind of package, whatever you call it.
Yep.
And it is what it is. I mean, I had a great, an amazing experience working for this company. They bought my company and all that. But every single Monday morning between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m., and I like to have my Sundays to myself, to have a few, play softball, watch football, hang with the boys, drink some beers, whatever it is. I would have this over-sensing level of anxiety that wouldn't go away till noon after I've had 2 coffees, made sure I was in front of my computer, made sure I didn't miss something work-related, like my day job, my partner, cybersecurity company. And I was making 6 to 7x what I make in hospitality.
Yep.
Additive on top of what I make in hospitality. And I don't miss.
But you were suffocating yourself.
I don't miss it at all.
Right.
You were suffocating yourself.
And you got
I was
the
on
time
blood
to
pressure
reevaluate
medicine.
that.
Yep.
I was on, all this stuff. I was, drinking too much because, you felt the pressure on both ends.
Yep.
I'd always blame it on hospitality. I blamed it because I'm a bar owner.
Yeah.
And because I got to be there and be the center of the party. I've learned a lot during this period of time, specifically in talking things like, not having to not the center of the party, but just enabling.
Letting other people do it.
Yeah, do that. I learned a lot.
It's
It
tough
is tremendous.
it's tough to learn that.
But
it really is.
You know what? I could go back in cyber tomorrow and and take whatever role I want. There's people that need chief information security officers. There's some that would probably pay $200K a year for me to do it 3 days a week, just
Absolutely
so they
right.
had a role.
Yep.
And I could check, make sure that somebody was doing the compliance end of it, and I can make sure that we're not getting crypto locked. I can handle that for maybe $300K. No, I'm kidding.
Fair.
But it's either way. The point is, I don't want it, and that's like life-changing income.
Yeah.
People had time to reevaluate their priorities.
I think
I'm not interested.
I think a ton of people did it. And I will say that it's on the other side too. Like I typically franchises, and obviously I spent a lot of my career there, but franchises do well in times like this for exactly this reason. Like in post 2008, 2009, there was a huge spike in franchises because what people realize is I no longer want to put my future in somebody else's hands.
Interesting.
And
okay. So you're saying on the entrepreneurial side of things.
And as people get laid off, right? They've given their whole life to a company, and then just like that, it's over. Yeah.
But they have to have a tougher time keeping labor, trying to push somebody else's vision, right? As a franchisee owner.
Yeah, I think most really good franchisees, right? Really good franchise owners, they're like independent restaurants, just with somebody else's name above the door. And yes, there are systems and processes that you have to follow and royalties that you have to pay. But at the end of the day, a single restaurant owner from a chain or an independent, if they love it, it will do well, right? If they care and they give it everything they've got, it will do well.
Yeah.
Real estate and all those other things that come into play. But I think if the passion's there, it works.
And, I think it boils down to that. I find that everything in this life is about passion and process. And if you have a love for something and you love the process of doing it, it just compounds your happiness. And I think that's what people reevaluate. And I think that's why we're in right now. Not to mention, I also do believe that this has been a complete backdoor minimum wage hike.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? The whole unemployment push, and as long as it has been, whether it's intentional or not, I don't know or care. But I really do believe that it has been a backdoor minimum wage hike.
Yeah, and it's crazy because the long-lasting effects of that are pretty insane.
Yeah.
Right? You used to hire someone at $14 an hour, and now you're offering them $20 to get in the door.
Yeah.
It's not like when this is over, you can say, "Hey, you're going back to 14."
That's correct.
Yeah, right. That's a huge problem. That's one of my bigger concerns. So you have to find other creative incentive methods, whether it's bonusing or performance. I have this idea, and it goes to the whole shift scheduling thing of building points based on shifts that you take that may not be as lucrative as other ones. The biggest problem I love that. The biggest problem I have is so let's say we get somebody.
So you're saying you're incentivizing people to get the good shifts. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I'm incentivizing with some sort of points or system for somebody who is a rock star on Wednesday night because they built that night, Friday night, maybe Sunday day, to take a Monday day shift.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
You know what I mean? So then they know they're going to probably walk out there with 25, 30% of what they make on the other nights. But it's in addition to just being a team player, which unfortunately isn't always enough.
No.
They will do it. And there's some sort of like Marty's points. I don't know, like some point system or something that they can then use towards, I don't know, whether it's we do a trip, we go to take the entire staff to Atlantic City on a Sunday night every year. We go down early, we check in, we do dinner, we do a team building event.
I love that.
And then we go drink all the alcohol in Atlantic City and do karaoke in clubs and whatever. And it's a blast. But I've always struggled with how to do like recognition awards because so many things are so different,
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe that is a way that it's like a team player point system.
Well, I always looked at employee incentives as a personal thing. Like I think that like if you dangle money, that might work for two of them.
Sure.
Whatever it is, a parking spot, whatever the hell it is. I never looked at it that way. I haven't for a long time. It's more like when I want to congratulate a staff member or whatever, like I want to do it in whatever way is going to be based towards them. So I'm not a big, I do dig that. I love your trip to Atlantic City. I think that's phenomenal, and it's team building, right? It's a great time. Everybody's out together, but it is tough. Like you're saying, to fill those shifts, the tough ones. I'm a big proponent at my little dive bar they work one night a week. You know what I mean? That's your night. You build it like we're talking about. Yep. It is what it is. You know what I mean? If somebody happens to, leave or whatever, and something else opens up, sometimes they might get a second one, but it's very rare. They do one.
And my whole thing is if you don't give them at least 3. Then as soon as that Kenny Chesney cuzzer comes up, they can't get shift coverage where they quit.
Yeah, right, exactly right.
It's the same thing.
No, it's the same with different. We also I don't like people to work at other bars one night within 5 miles roughly.
Yep.
As that's kind of like a soft,
I'm not into it at all.
Or unless I just don't like the bar.
But that used to be a law in Pennsylvania. You couldn't work at 2 different licensed establishments.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It was one of the old blue laws that were in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, but then I talked to my buddy Jimmy over at 39 North, and he says, hey man, if I get 5 different people that work at 5 different other bars, I'm getting their crowd's going to come in and see me that night.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
It's an interesting dynamic. Maybe I'm a little, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit of ego, but I feel like because I've used taglines like Delco deserves better and whatever. I just believe that we built a nice place and we hire really good people from a customer service perspective. Look, not all of them make it long term, but
sure.
That we're going to lose if they go other places more than they're going to lose.
Yeah, fair.
You know what I'm saying?
Because they're really getting the benefit of all of the things you've done at your place where you're not getting it on the other side.
And maybe I got to, loosen
Not
up
only
with
that, too, they can pick up bad habits at other joints.
That's part of the whole. My favorite, the Boiler Room, the movie. He's like, Ben Affleck says, anybody have their SEC Series 7 license? The guy's like, I do. He's like, pack it up, get the fuck out.
Yep.
He's like, hey, we don't hire brokers, we train new ones. And every bartender that we've trained from Green that has tenure is, go down the list. You know most of them. It's just
100%.
They get it.
Look, I think most people know that about hospitality is that I will hire for personality and train for skill.
100%.
Unless you're talking about, somebody you need for something really specific.
Yeah, sure.
If you come in, my rule used to be
it should be that way unless it's a flair bar.
Right.
You know what I mean?
If you come in and you walk fast across the room to greet me, if you walk slow, I can't hire you. It was just a really crazy thing that I had because restaurant people run. We run all the time.
Right. What an incredible observation.
Yeah. I run at my home. You know what I mean? I don't load the dishwasher without trying to do it faster than I did it 10 minutes ago.
Right,
so you can tell so much about a person when they walk across the room to you. If they're friendly and they walk fast, I got the rest. Right? I can teach
God
the
damn,
rest.
I love that.
See?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Love that.
Yeah, and we learned all kinds of new things tonight.
My only initial bartending experience was 3 deep. So it was I didn't know anything else. And so it does drive, it's the hardest transition that I feel like a lot of our people have are going from the Wednesday day, Monday night shifts to a Thursday karaoke shift where we're we have 2 bartenders behind there and they're both getting killed. And because it's, I say this about our ticket times too in the kitchen because we have a really small kitchen, one of our locations. I don't care. Don't get stressed out if you have 5-6 tickets. Process them the best you can, and you'll figure out efficiencies along the way. Yep. That is anti-restaurant, I'm sure, but in our little bubble of our Irish pub, it works because you got to keep people relaxed.
Do they highlight their ticket times?
What's up?
Do they highlight their ticket times?
No, but people
or circle them. It's a great tool to do. It's
you mean
simple.
The stamp
as soon as it comes in, they circle the ticket time. As soon as it comes in, and you don't even have to manage. You don't even have to oversee it. If you just make them circle it, then subconsciously it's in their head.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And you like I'm saying, you don't even have to follow up and just making sure that they're circling it. then they're looking at it and they know, God damn it, that's been in for 20 minutes, and it's a fucking corned beef sandwich.
It's a self-realization of it. Almost.
That's cool. I like that's another good pickup. But the whole point is, like, even if I ever have to get back there and bartend, if the beer is being poured there and the customer's there, I'm sprinting over to them almost, walking like wide stepped, and I feel like the customer's like, that wasn't a casual, that wasn't him just taking their time, going over, getting me a beer. It was like, boom, here's your beer. Anything else you need, or you're good? Okay, it's just that on your toes mentality is something that I it's hard to teach that.
It is hard. It is really hard to teach it. Like, I will give servers grace if they're hustling.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not fair because I come from the industry. Right. But I will give a lot of grace if I see you're really like trying hard. Right. And you're just short staffed or whatever it is. If you are slogging, I'm out. Like, I can't do it.
It's like a good bartender too. You can see their eyes go two places. It's drinking eyes, drinking eyes, drinking eyes. Because they're looking to see if there are any eyes looking at them. If there are eyes looking at them, that means they need a drink. And they're looking back down at the drinks.
Cool. Well, listen, what I wanted to maybe wrap on a little bit is I'm really intrigued about your Salad Works experience because I'm a Bentley fan, personally. Bentley with French. There had to be some times where operationally there were some nightmares, and there had to be some times
I got a good question.
where you were like, fuck yeah, we crushed this part of it. And I probably should have emailed you that question. But I just thought about it as we were going through it. Anything come to mind on both ends of the spectrum? Because you spend so much time there, you know?
So I'll say new product launches were always on both sides of the spectrum. And it was all about how you rolled it out, right? How much. And again, it was a franchise system. So it's not company-owned ops.
Sure.
Where I'm saying to managers, like, you will do this because I said so.
Good point.
A lot of it is suggestive selling, right? It's like, here's the reasons why we'd like you to do this. And
suggestive selling with the management.
With the franchisee. And yes, do you have the right in every franchise agreement to tell them what to do? Yeah, but like, it just doesn't work nice like that, right? Yeah. And so I remember a couple of promotions where we tried to roll them out too fast. And like, we didn't give the franchisees enough notice. And then it fails, period. Like, hard stop, it fails because they don't get behind it. And so there was a cheeseburger salad. It was a really bad idea.
We have on a tumble. We kill it.
Yeah, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. But like, the franchisees weren't behind it. And I think when you have, it's grown a lot now, but when you had 100-store chain, it's like moving the Titanic. It has to move with you or it doesn't move.
When you're cooking too, right? Like, I don't know how much cooking you do there. Right?
Yeah, it was actually a non-cooking facility.
That's what I thought.
There was
amazing because the insurance liability goes down, all of that. Like, it's,
no Ansel system, like none of that stuff, right? In fact, our oven was you didn't need the HVAC venting out, right? On the flip side of that, I remember we did an Administrative Professionals Day promotion with a seasonal salad that had rolled out, and we gave out for like the week before, you get it for $1. And it was a well-oiled machine. It was so successful. I think we ended up giving a lot of the money to charity. Hope Cohen did the salad for us. I think that was the celebrity that we had do it at the time. And we had it so set. We had staff at the busiest of our restaurants, right? Because we had corporate staff and then there were franchisees. And so we made sure that we knew the restaurants, like you were at it's like going to the mall on Black Friday, right? We knew where our team needed to go. And so I think from what fails and what doesn't, it was all about planning. So much of it is about planning, even before it is about like menu. Some products aren't good and they fail because they're not good. And so our consumer testing didn't prove out when we got it out to the masses. But most of it's about planning.
I have a question for you, and this is going to be gross. So, I have known a lot of people who worked in, chains, franchisees, all that type of thing, and bag salads. A lot of places at big box stores complain about finding gecko heads in the lettuce? Was that something that you would that would pop up from time to time?
I have never found a gecko head.
Okay.
I would have totally lost my shit if I found a gecko head. Now, I will say that like back then, and I haven't been with them for a few years, but the main lettuce mix is a romaine iceberg mix.
Yeah.
It's a 50-50 blend, and it is chopped fresh in-house.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, that's the reason why.
Yeah, and that's really has always been SaladWorks' kind of claim to fame is that it's all really chopped fresh every day.
Yeah.
And so do you still have to clean it because it's a product that came from a field at some point? Yeah, absolutely. But no gecko heads, thank God, because that's a nightmare.
And are you aware of the reason why the romaine E. coli happened?
I think so, but it's been a while. So are you going to tell me a story?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me a story.
And I just heard this, and it's interesting. The reason how romaine grows, it grows in sandy soil, right? And of course, they have migrant workers to come, and just the way that romaine grows, right? It's compact and it's layered, and the process of cultivating that romaine in dry and sandy soil, and the workers there, and not having porta potties for the workers, they would do their business near the field.
I don't think that's true. No, I don't think it's true that that's what caused that romaine one. I believe that happens.
So
That's
E. coli is coming from where?
I know. Oh, it keeps me up at night, those kind of stories.
And
That's how it
because of that, they implemented new systems in place in farms to make sure that wasn't going to happen anymore.
Yeah.
But romaine was the perfect carrier for that
kind of stuff.
Yes.
I did hear the one where there was like a cow farm upstream.
Yeah, I heard that as well. Too.
I'd heard that story. And that's why a lot of companies, even like, Walmart, really started this probably 6 years ago at this point, right? This idea of like blockchain for distribution, because so much happens from the field to the truck, to the distributor, to the truck, to the restaurant, and kind of having some kind of traceability. That's the problem with a lot of those outbreaks, is that at some point in the supply chain, you lose traceability of 100%. Where it came from. And so you can't really contain the problem in the way that you would if you knew where it all came from.
I think we're going to see some enormous issues when it comes to food safety and food health from all the global food that we're getting coming into this country that's not being regulated. And I think it's going to become a bigger and bigger problem as the years go on, because we're bringing so much into this country, not growing that much anymore.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
Not to end on a
gecko heads.
Shitty note.
Gecko heads, right.
I can't wait to cut the clip for this one.
Yeah.
Jena, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for the
thank
conversation
you guys for
and
having
your
me.
time. We're so excited about what Work Merc and Safe Serve Ops is going to be.
Good luck to you.
Thanks.
Well, what it is and what it's going to be in the future. And we hope to have you on again in the future.
I would love it.
Tell us all about what's going on. And thanks again.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.